Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Jasmine, aka Dash of Jazz, and I talk all about cooking, traveling, and living well here. Today we're in my kitchen and I'm going to teach you how to make seafood cornbread dressing. This is dressing, not stuffing. That's an important distinction. Dressing is what Black folks enjoy at Thanksgiving. It's what my family makes every year for Thanksgiving. And I make my grandmother's spicy cornbread dressing. It is chef's kiss, pure perfection. I'll drop the link for that recipe in the video description because you will want to have it on deck. What we're doing today is an amped up version of that with lots of fresh seafood. It is super flavorful, super decadent and indulgent, and it is the perfect side dish to treat your family to for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whenever you just want to turn things up a notch. This video is for team dressing. No offense to team stuffing, but that's not what we're doing here. We have lots of delicious ingredients to get into, so let's get into it. I'm from the South. I grew up on dressing, stuffing. We don't know her. That is a regular weeknight type of thing from the box. For Thanksgiving, for the holidays, we are doing good old-fashioned dressing.
Okay, let's get into our ingredient list to make this, to make this seafood dressing. First off, you are going to need some cornbread mix. I use Jiffy corn muffin mix. I don't care. I stand up in that. It balances out the spiciness of this dressing with a little bit of sweetness, and it's just easy. It has served my family for generations, so I'm not about to mess with it now. Next up are some eggs. We will use eggs in the cornbread as well as a binder in the dressing, an onion, some good old celery. I feel like Thanksgiving is the only time you really use celery. Green bell pepper, very important that it's green for aesthetic, and the flavor is a little different. And garlic, so you can see we have the Holy Trinity +1. We're also going to use some evaporated milk. Okay, next up is some butter, good old butter. I use unsalted so that I can control the amount of salt I add as I go, because this can easily become a high sodium recipe if you're not careful. Also going to use some milk. This goes with our cornbread mix to make the cornbread. This is a lot of dried parsley, but just trust me, just go with this. We will use it all. Next up is a beautiful blend of spices and a bay leaf. We have some smoked paprika, some cayenne, garlic and onion powder, sea salt, and black pepper to taste. I'm not going to lift this up, but you will need some veggie broth, or if you want to make it extremely rich and fancy, try some seafood stock. But veggie broth will get you there as well. Hot sauce. I'm not going to get into the kinds of hot sauce that are acceptable. Just know that as for me and my household, we are using Louisiana hot sauce. Okay, let's get into the seafood combination for this dressing. It's already a spectacular dressing, but the seafood is going to take it up a notch. We're using raw shrimp that is peeled, deveined, and has the tails removed, a lobster tail, or about 6 ounces of lobster meat. That's what would come out of a lobster tail, and 5 to 6 ounces of lump crab meat. And now we are going to mix up the batter for our cornbread. It is just cornbread mix. Again, I stand firmly with Jiffy, some milk and eggs, and we will just mix everything together until it's uniform. There could be small lumps in the batter, that's fine, but nothing big. And then transfer it into a baking dish to bake, and I'm going to speed the rest of this up because I love you. And now let's melt our butter in a large stock pot. This is going to cook down all of the spices, herbs, and aromatics that create the flavor base for our dressing. And you want to make sure to use a big, deep pot, because essentially everything that makes up the dressing is going to need to fit in this pot and be mixed very well. And we'll let that mixture cook down until it's fragrant, which is about 5 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to cut up my celery, my onion, my garlic, and my green bell pepper. And I always save my onion for last because it makes me cry. I've tried the running water tricks and all of those other things, and I just cannot be bothered, so I cut those last. Now our spice and herb mixture is looking good in this pot of butter. It smells amazing, so I'm now going to add in all the veggies that we just chopped up. So you're just going to stir everything in, get it all coated in all of that flavor, and then let it cook down for about 8 minutes. You want the veggies to get tender. You'll have this just delicious aroma emitting from the pot, and you'll be good to go. And while that all cooks down, let's process the lobster tail. Of course, if you're using meat already out of the shell, you can skip this step, but you'll want to insert shears or scissors up between the meat and the shell and just crack it down the middle. This is going to split it and make it easier to peel back. Then you're going to very carefully, because the shell is sharp, start pulling the shell away to expose the meat. It might be a little sticky, and you'll want to do this carefully because the shell is very sharp, so you don't want to cut your fingers, but you also don't want to break the shell into small pieces because that can get stuck in the lobster and is harder to get out. More likely that someone will inadvertently end up biting into a piece of shell, which you don't want. And that is what it will look like. Next, you're just going to pull the meat out of the shell, get any that might be stuck in the end of the tail with a fork because you paid for that lobster, you want to eat it, and then just cut it up. The hot sauce and broth or stock to your pot and let that come to a boil, and in the meantime the cornbread should be ready to crumble. You can see mine is still hot. Ideally you want to let it come to room temperature, but as long as it's safe to handle, you're good to go. And now we have a boil going, I think. Yes, we do. So I'm going to remove the bay leaf so that I don't forget to do it later. Now we're going to add that crumbled cornbread to the mix, as well as the evaporated milk. This is 1 12-ounce can, and then the remaining eggs. I've beat them all up in a bowl. And then you want to just mix and mix and mix, and then add your seafood, including that lobster, and mix and mix some more. You want to incorporate this very well so that you have seafood in every bite of the dressing. That's what your guests came for after all. Then spread the mixture into an oblong 13 by 9 inch pan. And then you're going to place that into the oven, 350 degrees, for about 45 minutes. This is what it looks like in the pan going in, and you want to bring it out once it looks like this. You should have a nice golden crust on top.
So that is how you make my super southern, super soulful seafood cornbread dressing. It is the perfect dish for the holidays. This is the dressing that you make if you love your family, if you're trying to get into somebody else's family, aka take this one to base family Thanksgiving, or if you are just trying to show off. It is over the top and extra, made with lots of love and high quality ingredients. If you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave me any questions you have in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And last but not least, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I put out fresh videos every single week. Thank you for watching. As the kids will say, this dressing is bussin'.